work on the game on YouTube. I've done a few updates on our Discord and on our website, and a few on Amino as well. But I wanted to show you guys what I was doing in a live stream. It's been a little while, mostly because I really don't have the time to create a YouTube video with nice cuts and that sort of thing and edits, along with my job and along with working on this game. So I decided that it might be kind of cool to do this because it's a little bit easier for me and you guys get to see some stuff while I'm in the process of making. So without further ado, as you guys can see, oh, you know what, maybe I should check and make sure that it looks like I've got some viewers on. So as you can see, we have the map actually set up for the first time with real world information. Let me go full screen here. And a massive amount of trees to sort of recreate the campus. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I actually imported real world geographical information so that we could have a scale terrain. It's actually 15 kilometers by 15 kilometers, so you do the math, that's 225 square kilometers. Thought you guys might like to sort of see me in the process of making the map. So right now I'm adding trees to the terrain, and I am adding roads and things like that. So I sort of work off reference images, but I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to see that because I think it only allows me to stream one application at a time. Yep. All right. You guys can't see that. That's all right. Yeah, this is my first time live streaming, so bear with me. So actually what I do is I check reference images as I go and make sure that the terrain looks like it's supposed to look around UA. So let me go ahead and start to do some sculpting here because I want to create the road that sort of goes down the front of the building. So in Unreal Engine, there's actually a nice little tool called the Sculpt tool where you actually can, even though I imported this real world location, I can sort of shape it how I want. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the Flatten tool. And by default, it doesn't allow you to pick value per apply. So what happens, I'll show you guys. I'm going to increase the tool strength just, actually, you know what, maybe I'll leave it there. But by default, what happens is this. So you can create some roads and land bridges and things like that, but that's not what we want actually. We want sort of a flattened surface going down the hill because we want to create the road that sort of heads into UA without making an unrealistic looking landscape. So I just select this tick box next to pick value per apply, and that allows me to do something a little bit more like this. So as you can see, it just moves more down the slope. But I think it's still a little too strong, so let me do this. Hold on. That's better. Okay, and let me just start making the road material there. So what I can do then is paint different landscape materials. So this global ground A is actually what I place below roads. That'll remove the trees after I re-simulate everything. So let me go into full screen so you guys can sort of see that. Actually, I need to resize the brush just a little bit, make it smaller just because roads are not typically that large. Let me go over next to the entrance and see how big I need to make this. Probably make it a little bigger. A little bigger. That should do it. Okay. Some of you might be wondering how I actually have the trees this dense and still have a pretty good frame rate despite running multiple applications right now. And the reason for that is because I have the tree meshes swapping from 3D meshes to 2D billboards at a certain distance from the player camera. So what happens is, in fact, if I go down, you guys will see. So here you can see some 3D tree meshes, but out in the distance here where the trees sort of become lighter, they're actually 2D, and they always face the player camera. So wherever you are, that happens. So, and then when I move forward just a little bit, those 2D meshes swap out with 3D meshes. So that allows you to have this buttery smooth frame rate, even on, like, I actually do all of my developing on a mid-end PC, so it's got like mid-range specs, just so I can kind of know what the average player and consumer will experience with the game. I decided not to go like all out. So that's why I do all my developing on a mid-range PC. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, now that I've done just a little bit of painting of sort of a general landscape material, I have to go and re-simulate where the trees are because they're being procedurally generated by my CPU. So I have to go into this mode, select the procedural spawning volumes, make sure that the static mesh is not selected, and then I can re-simulate the trees. And because it's a pretty big area, what's going to happen is it's going to take just a second, replace the procedural foliage, and you'll see that that road that I just carved out won't have any trees on it because I painted a general material on it. And there are a couple other materials that tell the trees where to be placed. Let's see, still waiting for the last volume to process. There we go. Okay, so now it's got to autosave. There we go. Okay. So now you guys can see that area that I painted out no longer has any trees. So I can go in and place a road. I need to smooth it out just a little bit first. But yeah, in fact, let's kind of walk up this to sort of get a sense of what it feels like. I'm using Ida right now. Oh my, there's a little frame rate drop because we just started. It should increase a bit. Okay. So that's pretty steep. But if you guys have seen, you know what, it's too steep here. I need to make it a little less steep. But if you guys have seen parts in the anime where they're sort of walking out of the entrance, you can pretty much tell, maybe it's not too steep. Because it's a pretty significant drop-off. Maybe it's not too steep. It definitely needs to be smoother. I'll probably make it a little less steep, add the road, and we'll really start kicking here. Oh, by the way, this is gonna be funny. I don't have a new Araka mesh in this latest project as of yet, but I've been working on a couple things for her quirk. So as you can see, his jumping height is, you know, pretty average, but then when you click and hold on the spacebar, you can actually increase that jump height just a little bit. And by adjusting some variables, I can jump even higher. So this is sort of like the zero gravity quirk, if Ida were to use it. But yeah, once I get Uraraka back in, I'll work a little bit more on that. But it doesn't really matter. It's pretty easy to transfer from blueprint to blueprint. So, but it sort of helps as well when I'm trying to get a good viewpoint on things. Oh, and by the way, the reason that you can't see the mesh or like the landscape really far out there, so if I exit out of this mode, you can see the landscape now, is because when you're actually simulating in Engine, well, actually, you will be able to by the time we release the demo here. When you're actually simulating in Engine, what happens is this. Let's go into wireframe mode. So the closer you are, the higher the density of vertices that are polygons that you use to represent a mesh. The further away the landscape material is, the lower density, just because you don't need as many polygons to represent that. And what happens actually is the default landscape, and in fact, let me go out here, and you'll start to see that these far away areas become higher and higher poly as you get closer and closer, right? It's pretty cool. But by default, the way the engine behaves is not quite optimized enough to draw such a large landscape when you're really far away from certain features. So what you have to do to fix that when you've got such a large landscape, like I said before, this is a 225 kilometers or square kilometer landscape. What you have to do is actually replace those far away meshes with static meshes, because you can control the number of polys in that mesh. Because what happens, those far away areas are rendering with tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of polygons right now, whereas the mesh that we're currently on, this area, is rendering with something like, you know, tens of millions of polygons. Maybe not quite that much, but over 1 million polygons for sure. And what you can do with static mesh swapping, because what you can see, you have these really large areas or portions of the landscape called tiles. And each tile can actually be swapped out with a static mesh that's only like 1,000 vertices versus millions or tens of thousands. When you're far enough away. Because when you're really, really far, it does not matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you can see that freaking tree on the hillside. It doesn't matter if you can see some of the buildings that are out there, because you're so far away. Really, you can replace those 3D models of buildings with 2D billboards, essentially. So that's the idea. Oh, and for reference, the location that this part of the map is, Musutafu, where UA is south of Tokyo. So if you go out this way, I don't know if you guys can see my map, but or my cursor, but if you go out this way off the map, that's where Tokyo and Hosu and Yokohama is. Out over this way is where Mount Fuji is, actually not too far beyond the boundary of this map. So I'm planning on making a Mount Fuji mesh just to stick back there. Even though you really don't see it in the anime, I suspect that they just haven't shown it on screen because they don't want to give away the like real-life location that they based Musutafu off of. But anyways, so like the city is going to be down in this area. But you know, let me see if let me take a look at your comment. Okay. So, let's see here. I need to smooth this area out some more. Back to sculpting. So in the landscape tool, I can smooth just a little bit. That's better. Back in a full screen so you guys can see better. So what do you guys think? Do you guys like having a live stream? Is that something that you feel is like kind of fun to watch? You guys have been sticking around. Is there anything that you guys want to see while I'm on the live stream? Type it out in a comment. I'll go ahead and check in just a second. I need to make this even bigger. I need to increase the brush size some.